Let's think about skeletal muscle as an organ system. It makes up 40% of the body weight. Imagine if that becomes pathological, if that tissue has pathology just by sheer mass, the impact it's going to have. Conversely, if we keep it healthy, then imagine the long term effects as it relates to aging and overall health and wellness. Contracting skeletal muscle releases glutamine. This was really some of the earlier research that connected the immune system and exercise. Contracting skeletal muscle releasing glutamine, which is a semi essential amino acid, is an energy source for lymphocytes, cells of the immune system. Incredible. There are incredible ways to leverage skeletal muscle and reframing the narrative away from being jacked and tan to jacked and tan, having good hair, to truly shifting the conversation from a medical perspective. One has to understand that maintenance will only get you so far. It becomes more difficult to build muscle as you age, depending on how you live your life. And the reason that is because hormones decline. If an individual is not on hormone replacement, there is just a natural decline. It's also thought that skeletal muscle, which is a nutrient sensing organ, becomes increasingly insulin resistant. Is that true that skeletal muscle, because of age, becomes insulin resistant, or is it really due to lack of activity? It is probably more due to lack of activity. That being said, understanding that it does become easier to build muscle earlier on. And there's things that change. For example, capillary profusion and splanchnic extraction for nutrients for amino acids. Your original question is, how much is the minimum and how much would be the maximum? This is highly dependent. One way to think about it is thinking about what is the ultimate goal. Should people do cardiovascular activity? When I break it down, I think about, as nerdy as this might be, somewhat of the fiber types. I might think of slow twitch and fast twitch muscles, just again, because I'm a geriatrician by training and I had to do those early morning biopsies, which I feel bad for myself still many years later. And slow twitch type 1 fibers, you think about endurance activity. You think about high mitochondrial density, all of which is important. We've seen that over time, if you are inactive, one of the hallmarks of aging is a decrease in mitochondrial function. Therefore, doing some kind of stimulation of zone 2 training can potentially be beneficial. This tissue seems to be much easier to maintain as we age versus the fast twitch type fibers or type 2 fibers. These are the low mitochondrial density fibers. They have more glycogen, and this is where glucose goes. This is the main place for glucose disposal, which really is skeletal muscle. These fibers seem to be more challenged. And oftentimes we see an individual who's aging like your parents. They probably were buffer when they were younger. And that may be because they didn't keep up with their training, or again, were they active enough? Did they have enough dietary protein? All questionable. But it seems that making sure the minimum effective dose, in my mind, for muscle maintenance is about 10 sets per muscle group per week. Each training modality seems to have a different metabolic stimulus. Could you get the same benefit? Could your 71-year-old mom get the same muscle hypertrophy benefit if she was lifting lighter weights, more reps? The data would suggest yes. The question becomes, what about the molecular signaling? So it is different. There's a potential that the molecular signaling is different from heavier weights versus lighter weights. There's a lot of things to consider, especially when we're thinking about functionality. So to round out the question, 10 sets per exercise, it could be high weight, it could be lower weight. But probably if it were my parent, my dad who lives in Ecuador, I suggest that he lifts heavier and also adds in rotation, because we're not training to be in the gym. We're not training to become better at exercise. We're training to become more effective and efficient at life and have more capacity and to be as healthy and as sturdy and as resilient as we can. And that involves doing actual movements, like doing a farmer's carry, like doing things that are meaningful, like being able to squat down, do a deadlift, pick something up, put it overhead.